Welcome to Security Architecture Podcast, where we help cybersecurity professionals to stay ahead of the curve and ensure they are successful in their cybersecurity journey.
Hi, I'm Evgeny.
I'm Dimitri.
This is month of October, and month of October is the month of cybersecurity awareness. We have Stephan here from Proofpoint to tell us about how they solve the problem, what they do, and what kind of fun security awareness training they do for the customers. Stephan, can you tell us a bit about yourself and the company?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Evgeny. As Evgeny had mentioned, my name's Stephan Circle. I am the security awareness specialist for Proofpoint here. So to give you an idea of what we do and what we specialize in, well, we are an industry leader when it comes to the security awareness and training space. Based on our threat intel now, we know that 90% of cyber attacks are targeting users directly. So we need to make sure that we're educating these users, and it's critical to an organization's cybersecurity program. Ultimately, our solution, Evgeny, is out there to help get the right training to the right users and ensure the right response to today's most dangerous attacks. That's ultimately what we're doing. We look to help identify an organization's risk with their users, help promote that behavior change to take users from a little more of a risky liability to more of a last line of defense. And that way it helps reduce overall exposure for phishing attacks. And that's really what we're all about here at Proofpoint.
It's very interesting because Proofpoint, known as a company that provides, say, cyber defensive measures against email attacks. And at the same time, it's interesting to learn that you're also recognizing that there is the awareness educational aspect to all of it. What's your take on that, right? Like, why not just to deploy these automated defensive measures, and we actually need to go and educate the users to be more aware and more, I would say, cyber resilient to such attacks?
Yeah, honestly, that's a great question. Now, we know that these bad actors out there have several different ways and several different avenues to break down the castle walls, if you will. So we have to be ready to turn on a dime to make sure that we're aware and we're prepared as an organization out there to combat these threats that are coming through. And we know that we can have all of the protection in place that we possibly can, everything that we can do to protect the perimeter. But the bottom line is that these new actors are looking for every way possible and finding every way possible that they can into an organization. And that's primarily through those vulnerable users, those folks that have access to information within an organization that a bad actor would want or would need in order to create a successful phishing attack. What we need to do and what we see on our side at Proofpoint is to ultimately find a new way to make sure that we're protecting an organization in every way possible. And that last line of defense, that user education, really gives us the opportunity to make sure users are prepared to know what's coming into their inbox, what may be risky, and not only that, but also know exactly what to do with it when it does come through. So that's what our program looks to provide. Delivering that education, yes, training is an important key piece of the puzzle, but ultimately that training has a purpose, and that purpose is to protect the organization as that last line of defense.
So what you're saying is that if the threat actor was able to penetrate through the IT security measures in place, you still want to rely on the user to make the right decision and make the right thing and not bite the phishing.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Because now the way that these bad actors are targeting may not necessarily be malicious until they somehow engage or interact with a user within an organization. So it can be a totally benign threat until they find a way to gain access. So we need to have our users prepared. We need to have our users ready and know what to do with an attack that's as sophisticated as that.
Tell us some stories about, as you say, something started here but ended over there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I do have one really good story So recently I worked with a global auto parts company based here in the USA. Now they were having some issues with fraudulent email attacks, things that were targeted directly towards their more privileged users. So HR teams, people that have relevant information or information that needed to be secured, that was more privileged than your average user. What happened with those attacks, and with them coming more regularly, it seemed that their incident response team was really bogged down. They needed help around their triage process, how to take away some of that manual review and free up a little bit more time for them to concentrate on other aspects of security. So what was funny is the customer would constantly refer to this as a game of whack-a-mole, where new attack would pop up, they'd have to jump on it very quickly, and then they'd have to pivot and jump on another new attack that just popped up. So it was really creating a lot of issues for them, and they needed help on how they could find new ways to fight or combat those different threats that were coming in. So what we did was we provided their training. We helped build in our tools that helped with incident reporting and also remediation, automatic remediation around those reported emails from the end users. And ultimately what happened is their users became more engaged. They were more active defenders against threats that were coming in regularly. And it provided a new security measure that just wasn't there before. Actually, once it was all said and done, the organization's info security officer said to me directly that these users are not only just the last line of defense, they're really the front line against protecting against the new types of malicious email that are coming into their inboxes every day. So it's really a game changer. When you think about it, you use all of the different ways that you have out there to protect your organization's perimeter. But the bottom line is, what are you going to do when somebody comes in and attacks a user? Are they prepared? We can help with that.
Maybe there is a use cases of a type of training or type of, not an attack, I guess type of training that you guys did that people say, oh, you know what, this has really changed. Now I understand. This is resonated to me, because we do know that the cybersecurity awareness training is not always sexy, not always fun for people.
Well, I'll tell you what our goal is. Our goal is to provide several different levels or types of training. So really any way users are comfortable with training, we can provide. But the primary goal for us is to have more of a tailored or targeted approach to how you apply your training. So what we do is we leverage several different tools, a lot of tools that also integrate with different protection products that we have, to really tailor our education to users that are going to need it the most. So we want to eliminate that really just general bland overall blanket training. Everybody has to take this quarterly training, that type of thing. We need to find out who your most vulnerable users are, who are users that are ultimately interacting with certain clicks, certain threats, things that we're preventing out there, but then also measurability on how well they're performing within different assessments that we can do within the training platform, so that we can tailor the right education to those users. So you're right. When you think of training, everybody, of course, doesn't light up immediately and say, oh, this is something I want to do. But this is a really great way to tailor education to ultimately build into a user's everyday reaction to what they would do on a daily basis. Just part of their.
How do you tailor? What do you do? How do you understand that Evgeny need more training versus Dimitri on maybe different level of training? If it's an executive person, or it's an engineer, or it's a marketing person, somebody else?
Well, that's a great question too, Evgeny. So there's a few different ways that we were able to do things like that. One of the ways that we can do it is through a direct integration with our targeted attack protection and our protection tools. So if a customer leverages our protection tools as well, we have reporting capabilities that understand who a organization's most attacked individuals are. And that's based on the threats that we're actually preventing from coming through the gateway. So we can uncover more attacked people within the organization to understand how they're being attacked and with what types of threats they're being hit with. We have direct integration to pull that data and that information into our training platform, so that we can then create phishing simulations and relevant training content and deliver it directly to those users so that they're prepared for attacks that are similar to what they see every day in their inbox. Now, if you're not looking to integrate with other protection products, we also have tools within the training platform itself that help uncover knowledge gaps. So assessments, if you will, that really cover a wide variety of cybersecurity topics so that we can tailor education to users that may not be as strong in certain categories of cybersecurity. And the same goes for our phishing simulation tool as well. We have ways to measure and uncover where the user's strengths and weaknesses are so that we can cater training, timely training to them on the spot based on their results.
I have an interesting question. As we know, we have different departments and different responsibilities in every company. How can you motivate the executive employees to take these trainings, and how high in the hierarchy you're going? As example, are we also going to get C-level to do these trainings, board members? What's your experience in this area?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good question. And that's really a nod to our product development team, because we've spent so much time developing, creating, and acquiring new and different types of content to provide to any type of organization out there. And what I mean by that is that, honestly, Dimitri, that's exactly it. Some users like to train by watching videos. Some like to have a more interactive approach. So we have a variety of different content that's going to allow the users to understand what's going on out there in the cybersecurity world, prepare themselves, but also do it in a way that they would enjoy. So we have several different types of content. For example, we have our live action video series called The Cyber Guys, and it's more humorous, it's more funny and witty. It's all about awareness, but also from a comedic standpoint. So it's really engaging, it's really funny, and it's a different approach to training. We also have examples like interactive training that follow detective, and that specific detective goes through and uncovers different cybersecurity threats that are happening. And then the user interacts and directs that detective on which approach they should take. And then it's also, each one of those pieces of the series are based on an actual threat that had taken place. So once the series is ended, once the program is ended, then the user gets a whole understanding of the actual story that really happened and what steps actually occurred. So it's just a new way to interact with the user base. In addition to that, we've added several different micro learning training sessions. So that way users can take training on the fly. It's something that they don't have to spend a ton of time in there. So we've really adapted and developed all different types of training based on customer feedback and exactly what they want to see.
I guess my last topic here is I would like to tackle. How do you metric success? How do you know you're doing a good job?
That's a really good question too. So, key metrics are not only measured by click rates within the simulated phish or training completion. There's several different avenues that we bring together. And this has really come together with one of our new technologies built into the platform called our CISO dashboard. This measuring capability really gives new insight into how your organization is progressing, how it's trending, and ultimately how it stacks up compared to our entire customer base, as well as customers that we have within an organization's own industry. So that gives you a measuring stick on where you stack up in each key feature within the platform and how well you're doing over time. We're also able to take all of those key features that we measure, and we're able to build that into a report that gives you your most vulnerable users, your users essentially based on their results in the platform that would be a lot more vulnerable than a user that is actually completing their training on a timely manner. There are different measures that we take, that we look at to consider program success. And one of those key numbers that we measure is reporting accuracy when it comes to end user reporting when they're reporting suspicious activity. One of the tools that comes with our security program is our phish alarm reporting button. and it gives the user a clear way to report something that they see that may be suspicious. And we take a look at that and run it through an analyzation in the background so that we can determine how potentially malicious it is. We then use that as a statistic to measure how successful they are at uncovering suspicious activity coming through. So that's one way that we differ, that we measure program success. Another way that we can measure program success is leveraging that same button to measure how well they're detecting the phishing simulations that we are creating. So if you have a really high success rate of simulated attacks being reported by users, then you know as an organization, not only are you educating these users properly, but they also know the direct path on making sure that we're getting those emails into the right hand. That's really how our next level measuring capabilities come into play.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure having you here.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen, so much. I really appreciate the time today.
Please remember to subscribe to our podcast and join us for our next episode.